All right, a very good morning to you. Welcome along to Wednesday's Off the Ball AM. As ever, if you want to get in touch with us, you can leave us comments down below or wherever it is that you are consuming this. And also you can tweet us at Off the Ball AM in particular. Owen, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ger. Welcome back.
Thanks very much. I made the stupid error of not taking today and tomorrow off because I took Monday and Tuesday off this week. Nice short week, 2-day week. I recommend 2-day weeks. Except when if you'd just taken 2 more days, you would have had like 9 days off in a row. It would have been Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Instead it was like...
Well, that's your problem. Everybody knew this at the start of the year, Ger. So if you were going to do it, all you had to do was look at a clickbait website and there was like, look at this sensational method of getting loads of days off in a row.
Oh, is there one of those?
There was plenty of articles.
It turns out I probably need those more than I'm like... Now, how will I know what to think without being told what to think?
Well, that's it, exactly. I mean, that's why clickbait exists. It's like, come have a look at what you think is true, but let us prove it's true. And certainly what you thought was true with this run of days, everybody in the country knows.
Clickbait is like the self-help of the internet. It's like, oh yeah, I don't believe that, actually. You're right.
It provides critical thinking. I think it creates a bubble of critical thinking where it's like, you'll never believe what happened here. And it's like, actually, I do believe it. And it kind of helps you build up a resistance to outside influences. But anyway, that is a wormhole of clickbait right there.
I think that's the internet distilled. We can cut that bit and go, you wonon't believe what the lads started the show with today.
Yeah, you really
no
won't.
One's going to believe it.
There's no way they were going to start a show in such a crap manner.
Yeah, it's possible that even we would. I'll tell you what's coming up on the show today. We've got Michael Meehan talking about Dublin and Galway in the Allianz Football League final this weekend. Also going to talk to you a little bit about the big fight this weekend. Anthony Joshua puts all of his titles against a largely unheralded New Zealand fighter. We'll find out a bit more about Joseph Parker a little bit later on when we speak with Gareth A. Davies. And on top of that, we've loads more stuff, including some good stuff from last night's show and a bit from Ryan Burnett as well, who was on the show recently enough, ahead of his fight this weekend on the undercard of the Joshua fight. Last night, pretty sensational scenes in Tala when the Republic of Ireland under-21 team needed a 99th minute, was it? Oh, is it 96? But actually, I think...
17s.
Yeah, 17, sorry. It might have been the 99th minute of the game because the first half were overrun as well. Anyway, deep into stoppage time, this happened.
Sorry, Dig.
Yeah, it was the other 21s. Look at you.
There was 2 games last night, right?
How go on, yeah. What happened in the 17s?
They beat Poland. It was also 1-0, but it wasn't in the 98th minute. I realised then it was.
Yeah.
I was against Azerbaijan, dude.
Yeah, good work. Do you want to sit in the seat? Is that what happens?
Yeah, continue. Throw us to the video.
Steal my grave as quick.
Throw us to the video.
Roll it there, Roisin, please. So this is off FAI TV. Scenes. What was it like down in the corner, though? Let's have a look from another angle here. Go on. There we go, tops off. No idea where we're going. Oh yeah, no, everybody's over there. Yeah, go and join them too. Is there a bit of badge kissing going on? There might have been a bit of badge kissing going on. Yeah, so that footage is courtesy of FAI TV and some fan footage at Tallaght Stadium. Unknown fan, potentially Robbie Keane. Yeah, who's that? Wouldn't normally condone badge kissing, but happy to make an exception in the case of Declan Rice's celebration of Ireland's 98th minute winner tonight. If that doesn't bind you to your countrymen, what does?
Yeah, he's finally kind of signed on the dotted line. You know, there is no contracts in international football, but if you kiss the badge, that's you. Stamp of approval.
Spiritual contract, yeah?
Yeah, the spiritual contract has been signed, so congratulations on that, Declan. Yeah, unbelievable scenes. They're still alive to the 90th minute. What an unbelievable conclusion to that game. As I say, it was just a great night all round for Irish underage football.
Yeah. What else happened?
Well, okay, so the Irish under-17s qualified with a perfect record for the European Championships to beat Poland 1-0 last night. When you said 1-0, I just kind of like, wait a minute, you're wrong. There can't be more than 1-0 victory for an Irish underage team into one night. But no, overall, a great night for Irish football. And potentially the highlight is that badge kissing incident from Declan Rice. I don't know why I called it an incident.
The goal definitely is amazing. So like teams like that where apparently they'd been battering away at the goals and it was like, oh yeah, Dan McDonnell was like, yeah, I had my piece all written out about our lack of goals and how this was an issue and, you know, Ireland bedeviled by the same issue that we're bedeviled at every level of football since independence. And there you go. A scrappy, scratchy, last-minute winner.
A big smile on Dan McDonald's face, I imagine, as he rips up his match report and misses his deadline. But, all for the greater good.
Yeah, for sure. Right, let's bring you to the newspapers.
OTB AM.
In association with Air. Get Air Sport free with Air Broadband.
We'll start with the Irish Independent this morning. Unacceptable to cancel games without talking to players, says the GPA. That's Donncha Boyle and Colin Keys' story on the back of the Indo. So this is following a course of criticism, really, from managers in Division 4 teams after dead rubber games were called off.
What are they going to do about it?
Completely.
The GPA?
Well, they've released a statement, and I guess that's the first step to doing something. We appreciate, this is David Collins, the president of the GPA, we appreciate that the county boards are under pressure and that adverse weather conditions have complicated the inter-county fixture planner, but there is no excuse for not consulting players before announcing the cancellations. These cancellations will cause significant disruption to teams who are preparing for the championship. The GPA will continue to meet with GAA representatives to make the case that such unilateral decisions are unacceptable and must not be repeated in future. Open dialogue with players is a far superior approach to handling situations like this. So
just parse that for me, translate it. What are they going to do about it?
Well, the GPA haven't exactly specified what they are going to do about it, but they have certainly said that they're unhappy.
They're going to continue to meet with high-level GAA officials.
Yeah, an open dialogue is a far superior approach in their kind of esteemed opinion. It's unacceptable, basically, and they may be right. They may be right, it is unacceptable.
So, just to clarify, they're going to continue to talk to the same people that they were talking to. Isn't the definition of insanity to continue doing the same thing and expect different results?
Precisely, but
they're going to continue doing what they've been doing, which is having high-level talks with officials who are taking unilateral action that they're not party to, and they're hoping to stop that unilateral action from happening. Like, at some point, they're just going to have to say, no, be it on this issue or another issue, or whatever the straw is that breaks the camel's back from the player's perspective. But you can't just issue a strongly worded statement. Dear Irish Times, this thing is very bad. Here's a funny line. Yours sincerely. Maybe that'll get clipped and sent around. Maybe everybody will think nothing happens. Literally nothing happens.
The GPA do say they've been working closely in recent days with teams involved, and they do say they were very disappointed that the players were not asked for their input before the games were cancelled. So, again, I need to stress here, Ger, they're very disappointed.
We'll come back to that story a little bit later on, but if you want to give us your thoughts, you can drop a comment at Off The Ball AM or below the youtube.com/Off The Ball feed. So, John O'Shea is going to retire from the game in May. Apparently in the next 5 days he's going to announce his retirement. Still only 36, 14 leading honours in a 19-year career. Gary Doyle has that exclusive. And then also the other story there is that James Ryan still has his toughest test to face. This is Stuart Lancaster's press conference yesterday. I mean, it's true because he's never lost a game. At some point he's going to lose a game, and that will be like
how does James Ryan react from this massive career setback?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing.
You'll never believe how many games James Ryan has lost in his career. The answer is 0. Clickbait ruined. It's rugby on the front of the Irish Times sports section as well. Gordon Darcy saying the people's game. This month maybe, but winning is what keeps them coming back. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, why not? So here's the thing, right? If you're a columnist and you dominate the news agenda and the internet for the best part of a week on the back of your column, you are il primo columnisto in Orlando at the moment. It's like, I was reading it going, I know what's going to happen with this. But it's just weird that everybody is obsessed with going, no, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. Look at this and look at this. And what about this? It's like, why does everybody care so much? Why do you care when somebody says, at the moment I feel like my sport is the best?
Yeah, it's like that house in everybody's neighbourhood that puts up the most incredible Christmas lights every year. And they do it because they know people are driving past the house and they're like, do you see those lights? And they talk about it for a few minutes.
Look at the gee bags in there, what?
Exactly.
They're fancy lights. Who do they think they are with their fancy lights?
That's what a column like this is. And some people get enjoyment out of lovely Christmas lights. Sometimes there's kind of a irreverent feel about them. Sometimes it's just outrageous and, look, there's Santa there on a reindeer or kind of on top of the roof, and that's what this is. It's just this thing where it doesn't have great importance and it probably is not going to change your life, but for that brief moment when you're driving past the house, you will be absorbed by it and you will end up chatting about it. But
it's a week later and everybody's still chatting about the lights.
No, everybody is giving out about the people who have an opinion about the lights. It's like, how dare you say that one sport is better than the other? Every sport is great, no matter what your favourite sport is, that's fine. And that's probably correct, but it's got sort of, I don't know, it's got pretty heavy, that sort of slamming down on people who have an opinion about this. What if somebody comes out, like anybody who says that Neil Francis is wrong and that another sport is better than rugby, suddenly that person is as bad as Neil Francis? It doesn't matter. Like, if you have that opinion, so be it. I don't care if you think that one sport is better than the other. You're probably wrong, but I don't care. At least you can have an opinion that's wrong sometimes.
The glorious short-lived ephemera of the Christmas lights, is that it's like, oh, this is a nice thing and it's going to pass eventually.
But some people right now are like the person in the passenger seat and it's like, shut up, stop talking about those Christmas lights. It's like, you can talk about the Christmas lights if you want.
I just think that it's a massive overreaction to a piece which is fairly predictable in terms of, like, this is an absolute apex of achievement, and it looks like we're at the start of a cycle of brilliance because of the age profile of the team. So of course you're going to start making the case, if you're a rugby columnist, that, like, well, things have never been better, folks. You all better get used to it.
Yeah, but I say,
it's a good point.
I say let people overreact. If they feel like really hurt by this, and they feel that there's no way that, I don't know, Gaelic games could be displaced as a national game, then so be it. Feel that outrage. Like, I'm all for the outrage. Like, I do see your points, and I take...
Good if some of the outrage had, like, a reasoned argument as opposed to, well, look at this other stuff over here.
But I think the reason...
This is only played by rich people. West Brits. That's basically in some of the arguments against, like, oh, West Brit. Well, summed up in, like...
Some of those people may have spreadsheets, and they're like, look at the socioeconomic factors that produce a lot of these. Maybe they do have reasons behind it, but to be fair, most of them, they don't. They're just angry and empty vessels to a certain extent. But let the outrage continue is all I'm saying. It's rugby as well.
Also, who cares about what the national sport is? Why does it matter? Who cares? Who cares? Why?
Well,
why everybody assessing my sport's a national sport? It's like, what? Why does it matter? It's a made-up title that means nothing.
Yeah, there's a lot of made-up titles that mean nothing and mean something at the same time.
What, like?
Well, the made-up title of being, say, the greatest footballer in the world. Like, there's... Okay, the Ballon d'Or is a figure, is an actual thing where you can mark that person.
There you go, yeah. There's no prize every year. Oh, you are the number one national sport this year. Well done.
The greatest footballer of all time. There's no prize for the greatest footballer of all time, but yet it is something that debate means something to people. The national sport, I can see why it's a debate that means something to people. I don't particularly care about it, but I say stop bashing people who care about it. Like that, you've just done it there. You said...
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so maybe you think it doesn't matter, but stop bashing people who think it does matter.
But stop getting caught up in this. Like,
who cares if you get caught up in it? Who cares what people care about?
Because
stop telling people what they should care about.
Okay, I'm not telling people what they should care about. I'm saying that this is like a massive overreaction to a column which was predictable and really well written. Like, it was like, I would say, designed to, in some ways, provoke the response that it's got.
Look, you're probably right.
And everybody's walking into this like, no.
Yes, okay.
And it doesn't matter. If you're like, if you're a GA fan,
that's my point.
You should be secure enough in the, well, actually, I love my sport and I'm doing my best to keep it growing. And I'm not complacent about the threat of rugby. Except I'd say, well, it seems like maybe people are kind of missing the boat on that with their crappy championship structures. If you're a 16-year-old who's athletic and playing a bit of rugby and playing a bit of GA and playing a bit of soccer, where are you going to go to?
Well, yeah, I agree with that sentiment, but I'd say the people who are insecure about it, let them be insecure. Let them kind of vent anger towards columnists who said that rugby has taken over and is now going to rule Ireland forever. Let them be insecure. I'm all for insecurity. The front of the Irish Examiner is rugby as well. The Thinking 10, Ian Keatley, we're not going to go out and outmuscle a team like Toulon. Donal Lenihan saying, oh, for some of Leinster's strength and depth down south. That's probably a kind of a sentiment that's shared by a lot of people in Munster.
Leaving the chest for last. It's because he's got his chest out. That is the top off. Sean Donnellan celebrating the winner deep into injury time. And then Noel King obviously on the sideline after our 1-0 win against Azerbaijan last night in Tala. Scenes, look at those scenes, is Rice and Shine. 99 problems, but a deck ain't one is the tab of the morning to you.
No. I saw one saying, 99 problems, but a pitch ain't one, which is probably kind of beats it, but I can't remember what the pitch reason was.
Was it Nafina?
Could it be? That would have been a suitable headline for anybody, any GA correspondents out there. That's your headline for the Nafina story.
Pogba sends message to Jose. Under fire midfielder turns on French style. They won 3-1 in a friendly against Russia. I mean, anytime you beat Russia, though, you know, gotta be careful what you say these days. Don't want to end up poisoned. Show some respect. Parlour backs under fire Wenger. I mean, like, that'll tell you where we are in the news cycle at the moment, where Ray Parlour saying stuff about Wenger is the back page lead. It's just because nothing's happening at the moment. It's the 24, 48 hours after internationals, and I guess we're not really free of the internationals yet, because there was a Jamie Vardy VAR controversy last night.
Yeah, but to be fair, it was a controversy. I'm all for VAR, but the reason why VAR was brought in was so that referees can make a clear and reasoned decision and make a definite decision, where clearly last night the Italian player was going down before James Tarkowski's foot connected with his. By the way, I've never heard anybody other than Troops from Arsenal Fan TV use the word Wenger as you just did 2 moments ago.
All right. I mean, look at that. Anyway, let's move on. PSG eye up Conte. Hey, look at that. Look, from Russia with love. Look, it's fucking. Sorry,
it's to Russia with love.
Yeah, but it's for Anchor as 007. I mean, come on. PSG eye up Conte. From Paris with love, Antonio, please come and help us become best in Europe. I mean, if you're PSG and you spent $1 billion and you're like, why have we not won this thing yet? Why are we still? We just signed what we thought was the best footballer in the world, and he's injured at the time. That's not how football's supposed to work. We buy stuff and it works, but that hasn't been the case yet in Paris. And who knows what's going to happen with them? But maybe they'll never win. That'd be great.
Just a couple of other stories then. The Racing Post on the front page here is going with footpath Philip for Aintree after owners reroute Star. We were chatting about this yesterday with Johnny Ward, and footpath was looking to be going in the Gold Cup at Ferryhouse this weekend, but that's not going to happen. Going for the Aintree National now at this point, so that's a big development in terms of racing. And then lastly for me is the Irish Daily Mail. Crying foul, England's night ruined by VAR penalty. I think that's pretty much the theme on the back of the UK pages as well.
Yeah, spotted bother, Telegraph front page there. England furious as VAR penalty ruling cost them victory. How could he not have known? Anger as Lehman keeps Australia job while players' leadership group of 3 are sent home in disgrace. I mean, I realise that everybody in Australia is saying this is a massive deal for us and we're hugely embarrassed by the cheating of these 3. But it's the 3 lads who cheated. That's it. It's on them.
Also, this is the best thing that has ever happened to cricket. The best thing that there is something utterly glamorous about cheating of this sort. Like, I hate to glorify it, but it is glamorous. Let's call a spade here. Like, do you want to now watch Australia's next Test match if those 3 guys who we had never heard of before, what is it, Steve Smith, Cameron Bancroft? I'm surprised I even remember those names. Like, Lehman is the name of the coach. I now know 3 people involved with Australian Test cricket. How many did I know last week?
One of whom isn't Shane Warne.
One of whom who isn't Shane Warne, exactly. So this has been the best thing that's ever happened to cricket, the best thing that's ever happened to Australian cricket, the best thing that could possibly, the best contribution cricket could make to world sport in a world that hasn't already been penetrated by cricket. That is the best thing that could have happened. And these 3 guys are going to go down in history as, the Australia 3 or whatever they're going to be called down the line. And I'm watching Australia's next Test match. I'm going to take 4 days off work and watch the full thing start to finish.
This is the Chicago Black Sox of the 19 teens, 13.
Well, today, as a result of kind of not having an international media so connected as it is now, maybe it didn't gain the global notoriety that this is getting. But I guess the legacy, though.
And in its own way, I think because there were so few stories, that story did actually go around the world. It was like, ooh, World Series fixed.
What about A-Rod?
See, A-Rod kind of...
More glamorous. Barry Bonds, more glamorous.
A-Rod definitely more glamorous because they've got the Madonna element and the money.
Okay, maybe Madonna trumps cheating, but I think Barry Bonds, A-Rod, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of them? Why are they so famous? Why are they better than the rest? Well, there's obvious reasons for that, but
Well, Barry Bonds hit more home runs than anybody else.
Well, there you go.
Period of time.
There you go. There is that. But
one of the NFL head coaches was interviewed. Should Barry Bonds be in the Hall of Fame? He was like, yeah, straight away.
So that's happening this year. Later on this summer, he's going to be inducted to the Hall of Fame over in San Fran. So that'll be an interesting story to keep an eye on. It's just
or not. There's others just decide baseball. No, they like their juicers in baseball. Fair play to them. they're like nakedly open about it as opposed to cycling, which is like, we love our juicers, we just don't like the ones who get caught.
Yeah, precisely. Well, some of the ones that get caught, like, I mean, Vinokurov with Team Astana, of course, Richard Virenque, who I've spoken about on the show before as working for some top French media outlet. And yeah, so if you get caught, just, you know.
Poor Virenque couldn't actually even win when he was doping. Couldn't actually get it together to win.
Well, you see, the thing was, he got busted before they got the good stuff into them, didn't they? In Festina. Yeah.
Although they'd had the good stuff for a while, right?
Well, that is true, but so did everybody else.
Just to show you this clip, this is the Australian cricket chief executive who, James Sutherland, another cricket name that, already gone. Kiefer, did you say Donald? One of the Sutherland brothers, father and son, who is asked very specifically to define exactly what's happened here. Have a look.
James, there's one word you haven't mentioned. Did they cheat in your eyes? Is this cheating?
This is not in the laws of the game. It is not in the spirit of the game. And again, I am.
Is it cheating though?
Angry and disappointed.
Is it cheating?
It is not a good day for Australian cricket.
I'm just going to pin down this one, James. You said they've broken the laws of the game. They've broken the spirit of the game. You haven't mentioned the word cheating.
Sorry, James.
They've broken the rules.
Jeff,
they've broken the rules.
Jeff,
is it cheating?
He's answered the question. He's answered it
No,
three
he
times
hasn't.
now. He's answered the question three times.
Is it cheating?
Jeff?
Is it cheating? Is it cheating? Is it cheating? Is it cheating?
It's cheating, yeah.
Is it cheating?
And this has been my favourite example of cheating ever. It's the best cheating of all
But it
time.
wasn't cheating. It's like, it's just bad. It's bad for the rules. Not in the spirit of the game. It's like, I can't say this is cheating.
Yeah, but like I think we were making this point yesterday that the spirit of the game is very, very important to cricket, and I'm not going to lie, at the start I had to do a bit of reading just to appreciate how serious this thing is, and it is very serious.
I can't understand it. I'm like, they tamper with the ball. The ball tamper not go on for years. Like, they're not using their nails to tamper with the ball.
Yeah, we'd like to get at the strings and stuff.
Yeah.
If you wanted a new ball, I'm sure it's just as effective, but I just find the process of it so amazing. Like, it had every little minute detail covered on the camera, and you could see their facial expressions change from kind of affable, we got caught, to, oh shit, we're going to get banned forever.
Or one game.
Or one game, which might happen. Who knows? Who knows? I hope they're back soon because I'm watching their next test match.
Here's veteran ABC cricket commentator Jim Maxwell on OTB last night discussing the fallout to the ball tampering incident over in Australia.
It took a bit of skullduggery from television to get onto him. One of the commentators had seen something, and the most embarrassing part was when he got the sticky stuff that he was using to pick up a bit of soil to rub against the ball, and someone alerted to the fact that he'd been sighted, and he stuck the yellow thing down his jocks. So that was probably the most embarrassing part of the whole event, as he attempted to hide the evidence in his jocks, and then the umpires asked him to sort of empty his pockets on the instruction of the third umpire, and he pulled out something that he was using to clean his dark glasses. He didn't pull out the offending item. So it was disappointing, I suppose, if you've got a sense of humour, that the third umpire didn't say to the umpires, do a strip search, you'll find the offending evidence.
The offending item in that instance, being the sticky paper, not something else that he might find down his jocks. Here's the best headline: why I've got some sticky near my dicky. This is, do we know what newspaper this is?
It is the NT News, the Northern Territory News.
Oh yeah, okay. We're for you. Heads expected to roll after Aussie team caught cheating red-handed.
Cheating.
He's looking down there just to make sure it's still all there and he hasn't accidentally whipped off a bit of skin or paper.
Did he stick it to his body when he put it down there, or did he just?
Well, that was a way to get through it, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it had lost all its adhesive qualities because there's so much sand on the thing. So it's pointless.
Floating around in his jocks.
Floating around in the jocks, yeah.
Jack Anderson at Sportslaw MELB on Twitter will explain to you why the Australia Cricket Chief Executive James Sutherland didn't actually use the word cheating. It's because he says there's still a process ongoing. The investigation has to happen. They're entitled to due process. So there's bits of that on screen now at the moment. The exact charge that they're going to face will be contrary to the spirit of the game, could be harmful to the interest of cricket, or does it bring the game into disrepute. And so he goes on to say that they're essentially contracted to Cricket Australia and he's their line manager, so he has to let the independent disciplinary process take its course. So, I mean, obviously there are some strict legal reasons for him not to say it, but at the same time, sometimes you've just got to go, what's the right thing to do and what's the legal thing to do? And the right thing to do is to say, yeah, that's cheating. The independent disciplinary process, the people involved in that won't use the word cheating until it's found to have been cheating, but that's caught red-handed. Sticky dicky. Right. Reputationally and financially, there's a lot at stake. Yeah, I mean, the reputations are damaged. Financially, I guess they're going to be all right. Like,
they're going to do every interview ever, UK, Australia, maybe elsewhere, big money in India as well to do all these interviews. They'll probably make a profit, to be honest. Cheating is glamorous. Like, you know, I'm more interested in cheaters when it comes to a lot of sports than I am the clean athletes.
Whoa, whoa, look at this.
Who's the most intriguing character in cycling?
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Let's move on. The Off the Ball Golf Weekly Masters Preview Day is back once again. We're warming up for the opening major of the year at Luttrellstown Castle Golf Club in Dublin on Wednesday, the 4th of April. This day will include 18 holes of golf, pardon me, at Luttrellstown Golf Club, followed by food and a live Off the Ball Masters preview in the clubhouse with some of Ireland's top golfers and the Golf Weekly dorks. Everyone who enters will also be put in the draw for a year's membership at Luttrellstown. All this week on OTB AM, we're giving you the chance to come along. Every day we're giving away 2 balls, so you can bring along a buddy. To enter, just tag your friend below, just tag us below in the comments or tweet it to us with the hashtag OTBAM. Yeah, tag your friend in the comments. That would make more sense rather than tagging us, because we're not going to be your buddy on the day. You're going to have to supply your own buddy. There will be more chances to win over the coming days on Off the Ball and OTB. We will be your buddy on the day, we just won't play golf with you. Is that clear? Right, to inject a bit of class in proceedings, let's talk football. Michael Meehan's on the line. Good morning to you, Michael.
Morning, Ger. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. We're trying to come back to earth after some
I don't know where
weird
we go
stories.
Sticky Dicky, yeah. We'll see.
No such controversies in Gaelic football this weekend. Look, the performance of Galway in the league has been absolutely sensational so far, and I guess there's a natural concern is like, ooh, maybe we didn't necessarily feel that we were ready to reach a final like this, but the performance against Dublin was so good that they shouldn't really have anything to fear this weekend.
No, they've been super all year. You know, primary goal was always going to be stay in Division 1, and that happened pretty, you know, within the first 3 games. And I suppose they were sort of, the pressure was off at that stage for them to see how far up the table they could finish, and then it just kept rolling for them. They've been really tight, solid at the back. You know, they've kind of built on what Kevin Walsh has been instilling into them over the last number of years, and they've the meanest defence so far. The big thing is coming up to Croker, maybe in front of 50,000-60,000. You know, it's going to be a loud hill there, so that's going to present challenges in itself. But I think in a lot of ways that's where this Galway team want to be, and it's the type of team they're trying to build as a team that's ready for Croke Park with the speed they have around the pitch. So I think they'll embrace it. I hope they do, and they'll take the challenge to Dublin on Sunday. No fear of a backlash from the Dubs. I mean, obviously there's always a fear of the backlash from the Dubs. There's always a fear. Yeah, there is. The game ended in the draw. Galway rescued it the last day, and you know, there was a bit of physicality towards the end on a number of occasions. So yeah, I wouldn't say that the Dubs are too happy leaving Pearse Stadium the last day. Just they found it difficult for long stages to break Galway down in the first half. They were very, very patient, maybe knowing that with the win in the second half they were gonna tag Galway back eventually. But I think Galway really taking the draw with the last kick of the game was just something for Galway, real positive out of the game. But for Dublin as well, I'd say it was an annoyance or an irritant. So I think it's whether it's a game they want right now, but I think it could be a big, big challenge for Dublin just to really go after Galway, because in fairness to Galway, if they can bring their game and the physicality that they bring, they will challenge Dublin for in a lot of places. Maybe not for the full game, but for a certain length of time. Was that physicality there in the team last year? You were obviously with the squad for the whole year last year. So did you see that? Like, have you seen this evolve
over the last 3 or 4 seasons.
We've seen it. We have seen it last year and even the year before. In a couple of big games, maybe the two notable ones were the Mayo first round championship matches over the previous 2 seasons. There was huge physicality on both sides there, and Galway, prevailed on both occasions. And at different times, maybe in the kind of final 2 years ago, maybe not so much last year when Roscommon overturned it. So it has been there in flashes, but I think this season of the league has been a constant for that. And I suppose credit to the training that they're doing and the intensity that they're working at. And I think, Paddy Talley has come in and has been a fresh voice and hasn't changed much, but maybe if nothing else, he's helped raise the intensity levels that the lads are operating at. And I would say on that as well is, the lads coming into the Division 1, thinking of Division 1 during the winter there when they were back training, training earlier than probably the Kerrys and the Dublins and the Mayos, they really would have known that they had to step up and bring a higher level to their training, number one, to feed into their games at the weekends. And they did that, and I suppose it started working out for them. And obviously they're growing in confidence and they're starting to use a bigger panel as well. Kevin Walsh has tried out numerous lads over the last 2 rounds, so he's obviously creating an environment where they go back to training and the intensity levels are there, which augurs well for the Sunday match day.
Yeah, because when you get promoted, there is always, I presume in every camp, this idea that we won't be pushed around by the big boys, we'll have our hard edge and stuff like that. But it really seems that this Galway team believes it and to a certain extent almost enjoys that element of stopping a team by whatever means necessary. Yeah,
of course. And because Galway had showed it sporadically over the last number of seasons, that's probably made it easier for them to kind of see, well, it's worked when we've been able to bring it to matches, so can we build it in as a constant every day we go out. Maybe in comparison to Kildare, who the other team who got promoted and things just didn't work their way, and they found several games, I suppose, albeit on losing narrowly, but they just weren't prepared for that step up. Galway, with their kind of success a couple of years ago, that had hardened them up a little bit. And yeah, there's a few players there who are just they're a different player. They're the player that Galway were criticised for not having a number of years ago. Soft touch and so on. So Kevin Walsh, obviously, during his years has addressed that, and he's brought in these 2 lads just to kind of stamp that out.
That physicality, we haven't really seen that many teams try and put it up to Dublin, because there was just an assumption that Dublin have that in their locker, so why would you take them on with it? But we have seen Mayo match them, and that's really it in recent years. Kerry tried it a little bit, but probably didn't actually have the physicality themselves over the course of a full 70 minutes. So it'll be really interesting to see Galway, with Dublin knowing this is coming, put it up to them and see what happens.
Yeah, I suppose there's a slight fear in that. Dublin knowing brings a little bit of butterflies to the stomach, because they really are, if they turn up on Sunday and they want to show Galway what they're made of, and it could turn into a long afternoon, and I suppose we're not under any illusions, but Galway have shown the physicality so far. I'd hope they can bring it to Croke Park, in an important game for the 70 minutes, and that is if we can look back, this morning week and say Galway have done that, whether they've won or they've lost. I think that'll still be another step in their progression. I suppose what we don't want to see is Galway, getting bullied around the place on Sunday and just getting a hiding. I don't think it'll happen, but it would be a sour end to the league for them if that's the way things developed.
There was the bloodless loss against Kerry was that in Croker? Was it
last year? Yeah.
And there was a sense that they hadn't been as physical in that game as they were capable of, that almost there was a flatness about the challenge that they posed Kerry that day. And definitely over the last couple of years, because the expectations have been peaked with the Connacht performances, there's been some murmurings of discontent about Kevin Walsh. In retrospect, whoever was behind that was really not thinking properly, because we've seen clear progress year on year up to this point.
Yeah, I suppose it's very, a big loss or two, be it league or certainly championship. People will start talking and voicing opinions and looking for change no matter what, and that's across the board. But I think Kevin took his fair share of that over the years. But looking back at it now, I think people have had to kind of say, right, And it's probably the case not everyone in Galway 100% buys into the style of play that Galway are adopting. However, they cannot argue with the fact that it's allowing the team to flourish and improve and be very, very competitive against the top teams in the country, and getting a draw against Dublin, albeit in a home league game. There's not many teams who have done that over the past 3, 4, 5 years. So the progress has been made, and I suppose that just to bring that on a notch then is what we want to see, what Galway people want to see, is that being brought into the summer, and just getting those gritty, hard fought performances in championship matches, and I suppose more specifically in the bigger championship matches.
Yeah, as Ger mentioned, like that last Croke Park appearance against Kerry, there was obviously like a rookie full-back put in on Donaghy that day, which was the main reason why Galway lost on the scoreline anyway, quite comfortably that day. And I think there was a sense in the county at the end of last season that things were okay. There was Division 1 football coming your way, and we can forgive that sort of, I guess, the errors that were made that day in Croke Park. Whereas now, do you think that with the style of play, there is less room for forgiveness if there is such a result coming down the tracks at them at some stage later this summer?
I don't, because the style of play hasn't changed an awful lot in the last few years. It's just getting highlighted more and more now because maybe obviously Galway have improved at it, but what they're trying to do broadly is very similar to what's been going on for a number of years. So they've tweaked it, certainly, they've improved it, but there has been lots of occasions, under Kevin Walsh's reign, where Galway have tried to do something similar and maybe not to the same effect. So whether it means in the summer there'll be, if things didn't work out, that people will be looking, as I said earlier, people will always be looking for heads to roll. But I'd imagine that, the players themselves, and forgetting about Kevin Walsh and the county, the players themselves will want to kind of make strides into this championship, and maybe get into the Super 8s and see can they shake it up there. Because there's a lot of them there who have a lot of time played, they've put in hard years. Couple that with they've added in 2 or 3 good additions who played in the All-Ireland final against Dublin last year. They've gone straight into the team at full back in a few different places, and they've made a difference. So sometimes the youthful brazenness and inexperience is something to behold in a team, and if they can kind of nurture that, it might be a lad like that who can spearhead that little bit of, do you know what, we're not just going to fold today against Kerry. We're going to take them on and test them. And I think, as I said, that's what we want to see. That's what the players want, and that's what the supporters want. Sunday then is a big part in that. What happens on Sunday? Galway obviously need to be very, very competitive and remain competitive. Absolutely win the game if they can, but if Dublin perform and have a strong team out and perform well, that's going to be very, very difficult to do. Stating the obvious, but what Galway need to do is be in that game for 70 minutes.
You mentioned the Super 8s. There's we still don't know what the impact of the Super 8s is going to have on the other counties, the ones who don't make it. But if you make it this year, it's a bunch of games in high summer, some at home in front of your home fans. There's a real opportunity for a new team to emerge and be one of the top tier teams, just by virtue of the fact that they're playing football for an extra couple of months together as a group at the best time of the year to be playing football. So, the window is there now for this Galway team to become the next Mayo or one of that top tier counties who can consistently be at the top of Division 1 and then also compete late into the summer.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's there. And, I think a lot of people in and outside of Galway would recognise that. There's been times in the past where there's been a similar window available to Galway teams, to kind of take that step up, maybe, over the last 10, 15 years, and it hasn't happened. So, there's a degree of caution maybe around the place as well. But you'd hope, you'd love it as a player, you'd love to be looking forward to the chance of Super 8s. Now, there's a bigger issue with that for maybe the counties who miss out. But the opportunity to get 3 big games, home, away in Croke Park, early in the season, vital, important games, within quick succession. That's all you want as a player is real serious games in the heights of summer. It's going to be big crowds. There's a great atmosphere around Galway at the minute, especially with the hurlers, and even on the back of that, the footballers themselves, I'm sure, have taken some motivation. That's just seen everything that's gone on in the county since the hurlers won the All Ireland last year. They want a piece of that too. So there has to be great desire amongst the group to look to get into the business end of the season.
When it comes to Dublin this weekend, is there almost a sense around Galway that you want Stephen Cluxton, you want Cian O'Sullivan to be playing because clearly, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks, that's your only real test of whether or not you're going to be able to beat Dublin at full strength, because there's no question at this stage, we have the evidence in front of us, when Stephen Cluxton is not playing, Dublin are a far inferior team.
Yeah, I'd be happy enough to see him on the bench, to be honest with you, Eoin, but I don't expect that'll happen. No, like Dublin are unique in that, you know, who they can put out and what they can play, you know, maybe with the exception of who you've mentioned, there is very, very little between it. Stephen didn't play against Galway in Pearse Stadium and, you know, possibly helped Galway's position that day. I think Eoin Comerford was in goal and he did quite well. He got his kickouts away as quick, but I think just the whole presence that Stephen brings to the game will change. And then, like, when he compliments, or Croke Park compliments him so much. You know, the kickouts the next day are going to be a real challenge for Galway, I feel, whether they really go high pressing on it or do they drop off and let Dublin claim them, because you know what happens if you're pressing Dublin but they get out through you, they're just going to penetrate and hurt you every time. So I'd be happier to see Dublin minus the few players. You know, Dean Rock got a black card against Galway in the league early on, and he was a loss that day too. You know, he's one of their main forwards. He's a target man as much as anything else this league. I've seen them go long to him a couple of times. Possibly might be something that could try this weekend. The one occasion when Galway looked vulnerable during the league this year was at the tail end of a game against Meehan. They had it won. There were maybe 6-7 points up and Monaghan started banging in long ball and they ended up getting a goal late on, and there was a little bit of confusion. So there might be the chance of that if Dublin can isolate the correct one-on-ones. We may see them go long. It's certainly something they've done a little bit more this year than in other seasons. So there's a point in that, I think, to bear in mind for the Galway full back line the next day. Yeah, definitely. And like I mentioned Cian O'Sullivan there, but I think that's going to be a huge part of Sunday, because I think you can make some comparisons between this Galway team and where Donegal were at in 2014, and obviously what did Dublin do post 2014, and it was create Cian O'Sullivan as one of the great sweepers that we've seen in modern Gaelic football. So how can they deal with that? I mean, is there a possibility of getting Cian O'Sullivan into a situation where he has to become a man marker? And of course in the first half against Kerry and Croke Park a few weeks ago, he struggled in that regard. He did, yeah, and I know the Dublin left him there longer than maybe a lot of people watching the game thought they would have, but maybe they're just looking to something further down the summer, you wouldn't know. Cian's best role is the role as you've described. I think he's still injured for this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. He picked up a shoulder injury, which will be a bonus. But dealing with that, I think, you know, the sweeper or not, to my mind, Dublin are the best attacking outfit by far in the country. They dominate possession. They're most efficient with their possession. But what they are as well, they can be ultra defensive, and they can have as many players behind the ball as Galway do, or as Tyrone do, or as the other teams do, without doubt. And they're comfortable in that, fulfilling that role as well. So it's not just Cian O'Sullivan. They'll get everyone back. Clips in my mind from the weekend gone by is Dean Rock marking someone in the cornerback position in Croke Park at one stage. So, you know, make no mistake, they're well able to flood the defence as much as any team out there. It's just they have the skill set and the players to really get up the pitch. And Cian O'Sullivan is part of that as well, to create the scores for the lads and the runners that they have. So, you know, they're a formidable outfit. The idea of the sweeper itself, it's not going to be a huge thing. I know in the league, Sean Armstrong was inside. He was double marked. Galway had withdrawn, you know, maybe 12, 13 players, so he was isolated a lot. To have any success, you know, Galway are trying to release the runners up and get lads there a little bit earlier. That might suit them. Croke Park might suit them in that regard, because it's a bigger pitch. Sorry, not a bigger pitch. It's about the same size as Pearse Stadium, but it's a faster pitch. And you know, it'll allow maybe the likes of Eamon Brannigan, Johnny Heaney to get up that pitch a little bit quicker to support Sean Armstrong or whoever might be inside.
One last thing. Dublin obviously do defend in numbers and they commit to the attack, and that kind of is the difference between them so far and most of the other teams who are trying to ape that defensive style haven't quite got the game flow sorted in their minds yet. But the other thing that they are is street smart / cynical, and obviously we're never allowed to say this about the Dubs, but it's true, and it's also something that the Galway lads have been talking about for about 6 months now, is that like in Division 1 they're going to need to be street smart, to use their cuteness. How much of that is new, and how much of that was always there with them, but it's actually being brought out more? Because Tally's getting a lot of the credit for that, but I can imagine that Kevin Walsh was no shrinking violet himself.
Exactly, yeah. It's that is a skill in itself, and it takes time to develop. It's not just, you can't just turn up and say, right, today I'm going to be cute as a fox, I'm going to pull in whatever drag, or I'm going to be cynical and slow the game down. It's not just a button that you flick. It's a skill that's developed over time, and that's probably what's happening with everyone, who employs that skill or uses that skill. So. Yeah, there was lots of it on show on both sides in the league game in Pearse Stadium. Towards the end of the game, like Damien Comer was sat on for the last 90 seconds of the match, literally in front of a linesman, and the match was going on around him. So he obviously wasn't going to get involved in the play. Dublin must have identified him as maybe one of the main scoring threats towards the end of the game. So there'd be a lot more focus on it for the next game. There's more camera angles, more cameras in Croke Park. There'll be a bigger crowd, a bigger occasion, but it plays a role. Like, it's not ideal. We don't like seeing it, but it's if the rules are there to be bent and broken or abused, and all these lads want to do is win, and you do everything in your power to do that, and that's unfortunately the nature of the game. Even the boys in cricket are struggling with it when it comes down to, if you're relying on a human level for lads to do the right thing, okay, they'll do it some of the times, but if they can eke out an advantage, I think they're going to chase it down. Yeah,
but it's clear Galway have got better at it. And let's park the moral question, because we would all much prefer a sport where that didn't happen. But we've all witnessed the All-Ireland final last year, where the best team in the country pulls everybody down when the ball's being kicked out, and they're the ones celebrating, and they don't care. They really don't care about anybody giving out about them. So, as a supporter of the county, it feels like you think anyway Galway got much better at playing that game, as gross as it might be, but the reality is that they're definitely better at it now.
Of course they are, yeah. It's just they have to be. You won't survive. You won't. Every team that has won an All Ireland, and be it the senior football All Irelands over a number of years, they were and I would have played a lot against them in leagues, more not in All Irelands, but in leagues you'd play against the Kerrys and the Tyrones and the Armaghs. And these lads were winning the All Irelands in the noughties, and they were horrible to play against. They did everything to stop you from playing with it in and outside of the rules. And that's just, you got on with it. It made you a bit of prayer to try and figure out, how can I avoid this scenario developing to stay involved with the game. And Dublin are really good at that now, and it's another part of their game. If Galway want to succeed, they have to bring it in. They have to get good at it, as you said. And are they getting good at it? They probably are. Mayo are really, really smart. And it's not a coincidence that's the top teams are able to do that.
Yeah, Michael, good stuff. No
coincidence.
Thanks a million for joining us this morning.
Okay, lads. Bye-bye.
Michael Meehan giving us some thoughts out of that game this weekend. I can't see where the Backlash performance from Dublin is going to come from, given their recent results. But I suppose they are a super team who can kind of turn it on week in, week out. Yeah, they have the whole thing of peaking at the right time nailed down as well at this point. They're not going to need to peak anywhere near even May, June. It's going to be July, August time, and after what happened last year, having it put up to them well by a team who got to a certain extent annihilated in Paris by Mayo in an All-Ireland semi-final, then I think Dublin won't be too worried if things go a little bit awry for them on Sunday, particularly if they're missing Cluxton and Cian O'Sullivan. As you said there, it looks like O'Sullivan is out. Cluxton probably be in. That's a huge boost for Dublin, massive boost. That would be a real feather to the cap of Kevin Walsh and co if they managed to beat a Stephen Cluxton-led Dublin team. There was a little flowchart up there. Was there the how to beat Dublin flowchart? It's science, how to do sports good. So basically, are you going to beat Dublin? This is what Kevin Walsh is asking himself. Is Stephen Cluxton injured? No. Well, you're fucked if he's not injured. If he is injured, then you've got to ask yourself, are the Dublin forwards going to show up? If it's yes, then it's similarly screwed. If they aren't going to show up, then you need to ask yourself the final question, and that is if Dublin are going to get rolled by the referee. And if they are,
and the forwards aren't going to show up, and Stephen Cluxton is injured, then Galway might win. But if Dublin aren't going to get rowed by the referee or have the referee a little bit on side, then it's game over.
When have Dublin ever been rowed by the referee? Ever?
That's a question.
Ever?
It's kind of a ponderous, kind of speculative question that will never come to fruition, unfortunately. So I guess the answer is you're never going to beat Dublin.
No, it's true.
You're never going to lose a game again.
10 in a row.
Probably 10, 15 maybe.
10 out of the next 11.
10 out of the next 11, I guess that's totally realistic.
They'll be beaten once, and that'll be like their cause. That'll be their mission.
Yeah, I don't know. Who's going to lose the game first? Dublin in Championship or James Ryan?
James Ryan.
James Ryan, obviously.
I did hear that the Dubs were pretty pissed off by the fact that they didn't get Footballer of the Year last year, and that Cluxton didn't get the goalkeeping All-Star. That they're nursing these grievances as their motivation this year to get them into.
They're looking out for grievances by the sounds of things. They're like, I don't know. I don't know what they have to kind of justify that when clearly the All-Star system is flawed because the Championship structure is flawed. As in Dublin play on previous structure 3 big games and they're All-Ireland champions. Mayo played 10 games last year. Of course they're going to have a better chance of getting Footballer of the Year. So shut up is what I'm saying. Just get over yourself and take your All-Ireland medals and
now
go home.
And now they're using you telling them to shut up as straight into the WhatsApp group. Kerry Man tells us to shut up.
Can't believe it. I guess they're in disbelief.
Shane Stapleton is an All-Ireland winner, a two-time All-Ireland winner as opposed to a dual All-Ireland winner. Never kicked a football in his life, obviously. That's a joke. He was in studio last night with Joe talking about the sacrifices that club players are making at this point to make it to St. Patrick's Day victorious.
I think my whole life is built around it, and actually everything else comes second, including like my career's had to take a massive backseat for the past couple of months, and at times you're wondering, is this absolute madness? You know, turning down work with like TV and radio and whatever, and I don't want that to sound like I'm going on about...
You're flooded with offers.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm a great fella, but I mean there's an element of career suicide that goes along with this, and I'm sure it's the same at inter-county level.
Well, it is madness. I mean, really, in the cold light of day, it kind of is madness. On the flip side, when you're on your deathbed, they won't be 2 years you look back on with huge regret. How can they be?
No, but there's definitely some tough moments where I felt like, should I jack this in? Because, you know, a couple of the games I didn't feature. So throughout the Dublin Championship I was featuring well, I was coming on the last 20 minutes. Then throughout Leinster I wasn't being used at all because I'm kind of the Andy Carroll of the scenario, you know, thrown in for the long ball towards the end. But the way we were playing in Leinster, we were winning well and I wasn't really needed. Yeah. All-Ireland semi-final in Thurles, which is close to home for me. That was a big deal for me, and I wasn't even brought on and 5 subs were used, so you're like,
where am I here?
Yeah.
That's a sickener. And I should say, like, you are, I mean, as you said, we'll call you the Andy Carroll. We've kind of dragged you in because we sort of know you and it's convenient, and you know, you come in, and I presume we tried a few of them last night and you were otherwise engaged. So you are not the star player coming in to reflect in the glory. You're the bloke who's right on the fringes, itching to get on every time. And as you said, I didn't realise you hadn't come on. I just assumed you come on in every game.
Yeah. I make it sound like I'm that important, but I'm really not. No, like I've written this line in a few match reports down through the years when I'm working for places that, you know, some guys have to carry water so others can turn it into wine.
Yeah. The miracle workers in that team, definitely the Conor Callan's getting most of the attention, but every club in the country knows what it's like to have people like Sheahan who, despite the fact that it seems like it's hopeless, stick with it, and ultimately he gets unbelievable personal satisfaction from the fact that he gets on for the replay and plays well and is an important part of that.
100%. The whole buying into a squad mentality isn't just a county team only thing anymore. If you want to win a Club All-Ireland, it has to be a squad mentality that prevails throughout the year because it's a gruelling process. Like, how are you expected to put up with this long summer of having no meaningful game as a club player? And like, how is training supposed to be intense? How is it supposed to kind of give you some sort of light at the end of the tunnel of this long summer that occurs every single year, especially in a county like Dublin? Well, it's with a squad like that, with your number 20, your 21 pushing for a starting 15 place. When you've got a bench full of people who are pushing for a starting spot, that's when things get easier and that's when success can be achieved. But it's an incredible achievement by Cuala. If they do 3 in a row, they're the greatest club hurling team of all time because it's never been done. But they're only the 5th team to do it, and Burr are the only other non-Galway team to have done 2 All-Irelands in a row. And obviously for Galway teams, I'm not diminishing the achievements of them, but it is an easier province to get out of, no question. The Leinster Hurling Championship is notoriously tough. The Dublin Hurling Championship is also notoriously tough, and they're straight back into it next month.
The Johnny Pilkington's just getting off his seat going, what? Greatest hurling team, greatest club hurling team, what?
3 in a row would make them the greatest hurling team of all time. That's my point. I'm not saying that they're there now, but I think 3 in a row, it's never been done before. It's incredibly hard to do that.
Yeah. Well, look, let's not wish away the next 12 months of all the cooler players' lives, given how much Staples like, can I not enjoy this one?
No, 4 days is all you get. Straight on to the next one.
All right, great stuff from Kevin last night, talking about some famous faces that were involved or would pop down before and after matches when the Republic of Ireland were playing in the old Lansdowne Road, which he named as his favourite stadium ever to play in. Have a look.
You know, I'll name drop another one for you here. We used to, Larry Mullins used to come in from now
we're talking.
Yeah, now so Larry used to come in for the games. I love. Can I not like
nothing against him. I'm
not allowed to like him as well. See,
I love the man.
He's
a legend.
Well, I.
But Larry Mullins is now we're talking.
I was delighted to meet him after the game. He shook my hand. Paul McGinley was delighted. But Larry used to come in before games. Larry used to come in quite a lot. So
before competitive games?
Before competitive
into the
games,
dressing room?
Into the dressing room, yeah. And he used to come in, or even after as well. He used to come in after matches as well. If we've had decent results, he'd come in. So Mick Byrne, the physio, was quite close with Larry, so Larry'd ring him up. And Mick always used to say to us in the day of matches, Larry and Bono have been on to you, lads. Come on, boys. And lads used to go, yeah, right. Mick's full of it. But then Larry came in quite a few times. Jay came in to see us.
Would he shake everyone's hand?
Oh, yeah. He used to go around meet everyone. He loved it. He loved his football, so he used to come in and meet us all. Yeah, it was
wow.
Great. Yeah.
What kind of fellow was he? When
just a sound lad, just an absolute, just a good fella. Yeah, just.
Did many people come in like that?
I remember meeting Eddie Jordan once. Eddie Jordan would have come in, or might have actually been in the players' lounge. No, very few came into the dressing room like that. We would have had a few knocking around over the years. Yeah.
Right. Larry Mullen, one of the more regular dressing room visitors.
He used to come in. Yeah, a few times he came in. Yeah, I recall him coming in more than once. Yeah, definitely.
Bono ever pop in?
No, never Bono.
Just Larry Mullen.
No,
that's fine.
No.
That is brilliant.
Are you happy with that one? Then?
That's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I think Joe was laughing at him previously because he mentioned Paul McGinley, and Joe was like, what are you name dropping Paul McGinley for? I realise I'm chatting to you around the trophy here. I'm just trying to peach.
Just ignoring the elephant in the room.
Yeah, which is a rather glamorous elephant.
Yeah.
Premier League trophy, Ger.
It is, isn't it?
It's
got a gold crown.
Yeah, I've never actually been in the same room as the Premier League trophy. You know, it's kind of like, this is my Larry Mullen moment. Larry Mullen used to pop into the Ireland team. Well, the Premier League trophy pops into us now, which is how things work.
It's just like there's a lot of Manchester United written on the bottom. There's so from 2006 to 2013, it's nothing but Manchester United, interrupted only once by Chelsea in the middle in 2009, 2010. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's room for 7 names around it, and 6 of them are Manchester United in that one. 1, 2, 3. Only 3 in the one beside that.
I've got 5 here on my side. 4 Manchester United, a Blackburn Rovers, and an Arsenal. Back when football was invented, Ger. And yeah, there's still room for Manchester City to be etched in there as a result of this season. I guess this decade is actually very well split up once you see it here. It's Manchester City, Chelsea, Leicester, Chelsea, Manchester City. So I guess a varied decade to say the least.
Chelsea due to win it again next season then, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point with their new manager.
The lion and the football, the Premier League logo on both sides. It is nice. I mean, it's gaudy, but it's nice.
It's very nice. It's like, I don't think that's... I think when you're lifting it, I'm not sure that they kind of pick it up and they're like, this is a really nice trophy. And then they get into the euphoric nature of having won a Premier League. But
does the crown come off? Do people wear that as a hat?
I think they do, yeah. I certainly remember the Invincibles wearing that crown at some stage. But maybe this is a new trophy with the new Premier League branding of recent years, and maybe the crown is non-removable. We'll never find out.
Brian Robson is in studio with us a little bit later on. That's why the trophy is here. If you've got any questions for us, we're going to play that out for you tomorrow night. You can use the hashtag AskRalba and we'll put them to him. He's going to be in around about 9:45 for us this morning. He'll also be on the radio with Joe tonight. He's coming to Dublin ahead of the launch of Carling's Play on a Premier League Pitch experience. Carling are giving Irish fans the chance to win an experience of a lifetime to play a match on a Premier League pitch. To enter, just go to facebook.com/Carling Ireland.
The one thing I noticed about Robbo is, I'm sure many people have pointed this out before, is just how his career was bookended by great Irish midfielders. As in, goes into West Brom, replaces John Giles, out of Manchester United, replaced by Roy Keane. Essentially, they played one season together and he realised time was up. So I guess, you know, it was 2 great Irish midfielders, and in the middle of it, a great in his own regard, and Brian Robson. So we're going to chat to him a little bit later on. Might chat a little bit about that. It's fascinating career. It's fascinating time to even have somebody from the West Brom club in, given his association with the club and how disastrous they are at the moment. But of course, when it comes to Manchester United, there's no end. There's an endless well.
You're going to blow our full 15 minutes with Brian Robson talking about the current West Brom team.
Just the current, not even his experience. Just the current West Brom team.
Alan Pardew.
Alan Pardew. What do you think of him? He's how well do you think Alan Pardew's
really be playing the style of play that they have at the moment? I mean, maybe James McLean should be getting more game time.
That's all we're talking about. I'm sorry. Decision made.
Your time is up there, lads. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but it is an interesting fact that he is bookended in that way, and also the way Roy Keane was brought to the club. I mean, Roy Keane may well have signed for Blackburn Rovers were it not for Brian Robson. I think he has claimed in interviews past that he pushed Alex Ferguson in that direction, and obviously there is that famous story of Roy Keane saying to Dalglish, "Oh yeah, I'll sign," and Blackburn were like, "Oh yeah, the office isn't open till Monday. Come back on Monday." And in the meantime, when he was back in Cork, Fergie got to him. But apparently Robbo was key to making that push for Fergie that, you should go and sign this guy, and there was kind of a lack of ego there, a kind of a team mentality as we spoke about with Kula. Clearly with Brian Robson as well, that signing Roy Keane would be the greater good for this team. Similarly done as well when he was in charge of Middlesbrough, bringing in Terry Venables, although that kind of backfired in his own kind of self-regard. I guess you have to have a little bit of ego as manager, don't you?
Yeah, that Middlesbrough team recovered and is saved, and you can look on it as very selfless.
Yeah.
And also, nowadays, that type of bringing in outside consultancy, so long as you framed it right, if you had a PR person to go, "Oh, he's coming in as a head coach, I'm going to be a director of football," totally fine. Whereas at the time it was like, "Oh, look at you, look at your weakness in that you are analysing your strengths and going, oh, we need a little bit of experience, somebody who's been through this, or somebody just steady the ship," and another voice for the players.
They'd worked together at Euro 96. I don't see why it was viewed. I can't remember really what the media storm was like at the time after Venables had kind of improved results, but this was a proven thing where Euro 96 was a success, clearly in hindsight now, for England relatively. And
definitely. They'd bite your hand off for a semi-final in extra time.
Exactly, and he managed to link back up that dream team at Middlesbrough. So it's a shame the way it derailed his career for a couple of seasons, but he got it back on track, to be fair.
The response was basically that this is a lame duck manager, and this is somebody who won't be sacked by the chairman because the chairman's too weak to do it, as opposed to actually saying, "Look, I'm doing this, I'm in charge of the situation." But football's a bit like that, really.
Yeah, I think it's a well kind of worn line as well. I mean, when it comes to certain figures in rugby, when it comes to you look at what Stuart Lancaster's doing with England, or with Leinster rather, after what happened with England and stuff like that, the old kind of view of failure in
sport.
In sport in general.
And in Ireland, you're not allowed to fail. You're certainly not allowed to learn from your mistakes. You're certainly not allowed to move on from them.
That's the thing. Robbo at West Brom wasn't a failure, or at Middlesbrough wasn't really a failure. I mean, it was just viewed as such because, look, somebody else, because of your groupthink, results got better, therefore it mustn't have been a joint effort, it must have been the new guy that you brought in. Where in actual fact, what probably happened was that Robson kind of got chatting to Venables, they got that thinking going on again that they had in the middle of the 90s with England, and results improved. And anyway, we might chat a little bit about that with him later on, but it's certainly a very, very interesting time in his career.
All right, we're going to turn to boxing now and speak with Gareth A. Davies about the Joshua Parker fight in a moment. Just want to play you this clip of Ryan Burnett. He's obviously fighting this weekend as well. He was on the show recently with Andy, and Andy was talking to him a bit about his build-up to the fight and just how much watching he does of other people. In fact, it ultimately ends up being Eoin who asks that very good question. Have a look.
In terms of the division as a whole, Ryan, what's your view on it kind of on a worldwide level? Are you watching many fighters? I know we were chatting with Andy a couple of weeks ago about the likes of Lewis Neri and stuff like that. I mean, is he a boxer you like to watch? Is there an influence, I guess is what I'm asking here, that's currently fighting in the ring around the world?
I don't look at any boxer. I really don't care about any bantamweight in the world. I just focus on myself. I don't go and study other people on my weight. That's Adam's job. I just completely focus on myself.
I mean, obviously that gives you a lot of self-confidence. In terms of just understanding exactly what the challenges are in the division, you don't do any analysis really, or do you allow the analysis to come to you? I guess you've kind of answered that a little bit by saying you let Adam do that, but are you curious about what they're doing and what's successful for them?
No, I'm not curious one bit. This guy Pereiro, who I'm boxing, I've never watched him. Adam showed me a quick 30-second clip of him, and that was all I really needed to see. I leave it down to Adam. Adam comes into the gym and says, right, this is the shot that's going to work and this is the shot that isn't going to work, so you have to do this and you don't do this. And that's just what I completely focus on.
Last question then for you. In terms of the next couple of weeks, you begin to taper down relatively soon. How is the weight going for you? Are you an angry last couple of weeks? Looking forward to a nice meal afterwards, or are you okay with the weight at the minute?
Yeah, I'm okay at the weight. Everyone in the gym says I'm a bit aggressive or so, but I don't think I am whatsoever. I think I'm completely fine. So, yeah, I feel good.
Smile, so it's almost like you don't believe it.
I don't know. It's hard to say. They all say I'm really aggressive and I get very moody, but I just think I'm a nice, easygoing lad.
What's the truth, Andy?
Well, he has a nickname. I don't know if he'd like me to reveal it now. But it kind of reveals a lot about himself. Ryan, can I tell him your nickname?
It's not a nickname.
Yeah.
So don't put it out there as if it's a nickname. It is no nickname. It's just something that the lads call me a little bit.
We call him the Piranha. Ryan the Piranha. Because, well, he's hungry in terms of his desire, but he's also hungry when he's getting down to 8'6". He's he would take your head off if you say the wrong word.
Harsh, the Piranha. Good nickname, though. So here is Joseph Parker about why he's so confident against Anthony Joshua this weekend.
And you feel this opportunity has come at the perfect time for you?
The best time. He's at his best. I'm at my best. There's going to be no excuses after this. Whoever wins is the best man on the day.
And you'll lap up the big stage and the thousands cheering AJ on?
I mean, there's going to be a lot of people cheering us on. I have a lot of family members out here, a lot of supporters. So, no, we're going to be hearing them cheer for us on fight night.
Will you knock out Anthony Joshua?
I'm going to beat him. I haven't decided how I want to beat him yet. I don't know if it's a knockout or if it's points or decision. I'll see how I feel on fight night.
Yes, that's convincing. I haven't decided how I'm going to win this fight yet. I haven't thought about that.
Is this Sky HQ a really weird place for a press conference? It's just kind of like, hey everybody, there's something on in the corner. Can everybody gather around, please? And all the staff kind of like, oh God, got to leave our desk again. This bloody all-staff meeting. And then it's like, oh wait, there's Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker.
Is it only Joshua stuff? Have you seen it for? I couldn't work out what the last thing I'd seen.
Yeah, well, Klitschko Joshua presser was there. That's the last one I remember, but I presume if it was like a big enough box office event, they just throw it in there because, you know, they want to take ownership of this thing. They want to bring it to the home of boxing, really. And
it's free.
That is true. You know, maybe pay-per-view isn't going as strongly. Maybe that's what we need to read into this. Maybe
how excited are you about this fight then? So, like, as a casual fight fan, how excited are you?
Very. I mean, you've got to be excited for every single big Anthony Joshua fight, right?
The last one, not so much.
Every single big Anthony Joshua fight, I'll reiterate. The Carlos Takam fight is not a big fight. It was one that he was always going to win, and simple as that. So Klitschko, number one, this is probably the second biggest Joshua fight, isn't it? I mean, it's the one certainly that's got the second most excitement out of me. And I've seen Kevin Mitchell yesterday writing about the greats when you go back through the years, when you look at Cooper, when you look at Lewis, and you look at these super fights that they had, that it's so early still in a heavyweight's career here for Anthony Joshua, and to have kind of 3 stadium fights already under his belt, 3 consecutive stadium fights is huge, and they're all massive, massive events, and they're great, and it is one of these careers at the moment. There's a few of them in world sport at the moment, but Anthony Joshua's career is one where you look and you think to yourself, every single fight is one that will be talked about in years to come, bar Carlos Takam.
Yeah, this is a very interesting. It's interesting that they're taking this and that they want to get to this point, and they clearly want to get to the Wilder fight because that's the super fight that makes everybody Floyd Mayweather style money. But he's got to be impressive in this fight, and maybe he doesn't have to be that impressive. He just has to win this fight relatively comfortably, and you would expect that he will.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
it's interesting that you mentioned Floyd Mayweather there, because the comments this week have obviously, the one that's caught the back pages has been Joshua saying that he wants to become the smartest fighter in the world. He wants to become a Floyd Mayweather. And that may just be in terms of fighting style. It may also be in terms of financial capabilities and what Floyd Mayweather can do to the market. But I wonder, is there an element of Anthony Joshua realising his old mortality there? When you look at the other great heavyweight fighters down through the years and the dangers that comes with that, when he says he wants to become the smartest fighter in the world, does he mean he wants to make a lot of money by the time he's 32? So we're talking the next half a decade, and then get out of the fight game? I'm not so sure. It's something we can ask Gareth A. Davies,
who's on the line right now. Gareth, good morning to you.
A very good morning, gentlemen.
How are you doing?
Good morning.
How's it going?
Well, I've been trying to get my Skype working to come on your show. I've been running around a very old country house stroke castle here in Chepstow in Wales. So my apologies. I'd love to have been on with you about 10 minutes earlier.
No worries, no worries. Better late than never.
Always, yeah, always.
Gareth, interesting question here from Eoin in terms of the philosophy and style that we would expect to see somebody like Anthony Joshua evolve into, really, as the course of his career progresses. What do you expect from him this weekend? Do you expect any changes in how he approaches this fight?
Well, he's talking about changes, how he's been working harder on his jab, consulting with Vladimir Klitschko, which I think is fascinating, through Jonathan Banks, Vladimir Klitschko's trainer, of course, before he retired, who'd worked under Manny Stewart. He's talking about wanting to be the best version of himself. Now, you could say this is all just words and rhetoric, and at the moment he and Joseph Parker are indulging in what is really a phony war, and all the hype ends, you know, Saturday night when that first bell rings. But I do think he's genuine about it. I think he is a work in progress who wants to progress that work as quickly as possible, if I can kind of give you that tautology. But I think the key with Anthony Joshua is, in his last two fights, they were in front of huge crowds, 80,000, 90,000, 80,000 at Wembley Stadium and Principality Stadium. We know how big those stadiums are. You know, a lot of your fans of your show follow the rugby as well. We know what occasions they have in that stadium. He's also fought 21 rounds in his last two fights, and we learned against Vladimir Klitschko that he has a chin he can recover from, he has heart, and he has stamina. He has a second wind during fights. So I think we are seeing a guy who's progressing. I do think he's probably 60-70% of what he's going to be eventually, and if he can win 5 more times, he's going to increase, you know, 5 more times in a row, his abilities and his skill set and his body shape and his body form. He's lighter than he was before. All these things are going into making him a better fighter every time. And to answer the second part of your question, even though it's a very long answer to the first part, what will we see on Saturday night? I think we'll see a more cultured Anthony Joshua. I still think he's going to be the punching beast that he always is. But he's talking about being more cultured. That will happen, I think, if Joseph Parker doesn't get under his jab and land some combinations and flutter his brain a little bit. Because I think if Anthony Joshua controls it, he wants a box like that. Sounds like Klitschko, but if Parker, who I think is obviously smaller, faster, can get in and out and land combinations, I think Anthony Joshua will engage with him more.
We were just speaking before you came on air there, Gareth, about Joshua's comments this week, talking about becoming, or potentially becoming, the smartest fighter in the world. What was your read on that? What do you think he meant by that? Do you think he meant in terms of his selection of fights, his actual tactics in the ring, or because I was thinking that potentially he means an early exit maybe, or an exit at the right time, because we know how mortality can be questioned in the heavyweight fight game.
Well, he's talking about fighting for 10 more years, Eoin. I mean, I think that, you know, he wants 20 more fights. He wants to get to 40 fights. So I think by being the smartest, I think he means in terms of the way he was saying. I remember asking him the question. It was a sit down with the national newspaper media on the Wednesday of his training camp in Sheffield last week. It was a week ago, and it was in fact a week ago this time. And he was saying that, because I was asking him about being the baddest man on the planet, what that means to him, you know, because the heavyweight champion is often referred to that. It was, of course, referred to, first of all, or it was self-referred by Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. And Joshua was saying, no, that's not what I am. I don't want to be that. The guy I look up to, the guy I kind of model myself on, if you like, who I think's been really smart, is Floyd Mayweather. He's been the smartest guy on the planet. So I think he's referring more to the way of boxing. Yes, I agree with you. He's talking about not to minimise the number of punches he's going to take. But I think he also means being the smartest guy in terms of, he's got these kind of moras that he uses. Less is more. He doesn't overburden himself with public engagements. When he's in camp, he's in camp. He does a couple of media days. That's it. When he's on holiday, he goes away. He's not kind of photographed by paparazzi, leaving big kind of extravagant do's and galas. And I think that's the point. He's just smart in everything he does.
Yeah, I mean, that is fundamentally different from Floyd, who owns a strip club and likes to engage in the celebrity of being one of the world's biggest gamblers. But maybe just to divorce the conversation.
Different personalities, though, Jay, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. And so, I can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to become somebody who has longevity as the heavyweight champion of the world, which is impossible, really, to... You're utterly reliant on not walking into a bigger right hand than you've ever done before, or moving your head accidentally one way, and suddenly you're off balance and you're out, and then all of your plans, as Mike Tyson would say, have gone awry. Just the challenge that he faces this weekend, how ready is his opponent to actually step up to this level?
It's a very good point. I think he is ready. I think he hasn't looked great in all his recent contests, but then again, we always say that styles make fights, and these two guys have styles that do marry very well. They both like to engage. I suspect that Anthony Joshua wants to counterpunch more against Anthony Joshua than he may have done in the past against past opponents, because it's all about he's talking about timing his punches in this fight. But to go back finally on what you were just saying there about, you're right, when you're a heavyweight champion, if you want to go on a long run, Larry Holmes, Joe Louis, that's why they're so celebrated. Over 20 title defences, both of them. And as you say, rightly say, Jay, in a division that a jab can change it, a heavyweight fight. One punch, because force and weight, because there's more force with more weight, kind of in physical terms, it's physical laws. It's the most perilous division to be in terms of being knocked out or being stopped. Any heavyweight can get knocked out, So, you're right, he walks a tightrope. And also there's so much pressure on him and so much expectation, because you've got the insiders in the sport of boxing that understand the perilous path he walks right now. But the mainstream, who adore him, who see him as this Adonis-like figure, are not aware of the perils that face him in this division. It's a fascinating journey. He's a fascinating story. I mean, he talked about being on remand yesterday when we were with him, and about the bad times in his life and the foundations he wants to create. But it's nice to be around him. It's nice to be on his journey, because I think he's one of the great fascinating stories, like Conor McGregor, like Brian O'Driscoll. He has great star quality.
Just one last point on that, because just as the names you mentioned there in terms of Joe Louis and Mike Tyson, I know he's mentioned Floyd Mayweather this week, but does he have a sense of history? Does he have a sense of how storied the heavyweight division is and how it's probably kind of the most exciting historically piece of sport that we've ever seen, really?
Yeah, I think he does, but I also think he has another sense with that, Owen, where he knows that in boxing, statistics often lie. As they do in all sports in some ways, that history paints a different picture sometimes. People look back on Joe Louis's record or on Larry Holmes's record, and there are bums on those records. Bums, as we'd call people call some fighters tomato cans, or there were fighters on their records who had no chance of beating them. And I think he's very aware of history in that sense. I think one of his targets is to be considered down the line. Lennox Lewis is the greatest British heavyweight of all time. I don't think anyone would dispute that. But if Anthony Joshua, I think he's aware if he can get anywhere near and develop himself and get anywhere near the standing, if you like, that Lennox Lewis had, he will go down as one of the great fighters. What he's got to do, of course, is beat Joseph Parker. He's got to unify the belts, arguably fight Deontay Wilder if he still holds it when they fight. very interestingly, this weekend, by the way, Deontay Wilder was working on the Sky Sports team on commentary, but now isn't coming, apparently, which I think is very odd. And, you know, if he can win 7-8 fights, I think if he can win 7-8 fights in a row and fight most of these guys once or twice and defeat Tyson Fury and then go around again and beat the next 4 or 5 guys and improve with every contest, I think we will be looking at a guy who will be considered, you know, one of the modern heavyweight greats. But he's got a long way to go, and we know there are vulnerabilities. We've seen him poleaxed already by Vladimir Klitschko, who has a very heavy right hand 11 months ago. But, you know, it all comes down to performances on the night, and, you know, if he can keep the gravy train, if you like, going. Because at the moment, boxing is riding high, and a lot of it, gents, is as a result of the slipstream of Anthony Joshua.
Yeah. I'll talk to you about somebody else in the slipstream in just a minute, but just to go back to the Wilder point, any idea why he's not coming or what the speculation is about that?
Do you know what? If I knew that, I'd be a very, very wealthy psychologist. Yeah. I mean, God, it beggars belief. I was out at Deontay Wilder's fight against Luis Ortiz about 3 weeks ago, Jay, and, you know, all he would talk about off air was, you know, I want the fight with Anthony Joshua. I don't know whether Dillian Whyte's victory at the weekend over the Australian Lucas Brown, which makes him continues him, if you like, as the #1 WBC contender or challenger, has put Deontay Wilder off that he's going to get Dillian Whyte in his ear the whole time he's here. But you know, the whole point. I'll reveal this. I understand that contractually, part of Wilder's deal about being in the broadcast team was to be flown over, obviously paid to be on the broadcast team, a handsome sum, but part of the contract was that he would step into the ring afterwards and stand and do a face-off with the winner. Now, I don't know, who knows, you know, his daughter has spina bifida, he may have family issues, so I don't want to say that he's done this for some fistic reason or you know, for some kind of protest against one of his opponents, whether it be Eddie Hearn, the promoter, who he doesn't like, whether it be Anthony Joshua or Dillian Whyte. But, you know, because it could be some familial issue. But it's very odd that he's not coming, because this is a big moment. The world's watching this moment. It's the first time for 7 years that 2 heavyweight belts have been unified, you know, that by holders of the belts. It's the first time in the UK we've had you know, 3 belts on the line. The first time we've had a unified heavyweight fight, believe it or not, in the UK. And the first time, I think, for a very, very long time, that 2 undefeated heavyweight fighters have fought for a unification fight. So he should be here. It's a very, very odd scenario, and that is all I know at the moment.
Yeah, like we're looking forward to the build-up to that fight, and the best way to kick that off is to hop in the ring afterwards and go, oh, that was nothing, wait till you see what I'm going to do. Like, does this kick back the time frame? Are we now looking at the potential of this not being a 2018 fight and more likely a 2019 fight?
Sorry, Joe, I just missed you at the end there.
Are we now looking at a potential Joshua Deontay Wilder fight being a 2019 as opposed to a 2018 possibility?
I think it was always 2019, Joe. I've said it all along. Even though Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn, his promoter, are constantly saying they want to unify the belts this year, my feeling and the history of the division generally dictates that these things are not rushed. It gives it time for the big fight to breathe. And there's an opportunity missed here on Saturday night if Deontay Wilder doesn't come, because it's that photo moment. It's that moment where Wilder's kind of almost spitting in Joshua's face, ranting at him. It's that moment that goes viral. It's that moment, as we've seen, the moments that make $600 million fights, as we saw with Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. The moments that people remember, the press tours, and if he's not there, I don't see it happening this year. No, I mean, you know, we need a build-up. It's the biggest fight in the heavyweight division. I don't think it'll happen this year. No, I think it will. I think other things will happen. I think there'll be mandatories afterwards. WBA and IBF mandatories, maybe even WBO mandatory if Joshua wins. And I do expect him to win between rounds about, 7-10, 6-9 on Saturday night. I do think he'll get to Parker. eventually, if Parker doesn't get to him early.
One last question for you then about Ryan Burnett. We obviously huge fans of him, and the backstory that he has is absolutely remarkable. Taking on the fights that he's taking on at the moment, though, again, it's a high wire act because there's no guarantee that he is actually going to be still a champion at the end of this weekend.
Well, look, the thing is about Ryan Burnett, I think he's already achieved brilliant things. You know, you talk about Anthony Joshua's experience. Ryan's only 18-0, remember, with 9 knockouts. But he's 25. He's done a brilliant thing coming over to the UK. He was under Ricky Hatton for a while, of course, up in Manchester. That's the first time I met him. Must have been, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago now. And now he's under the brilliant Adam Booth. I will say that. I think Adam Booth is brilliant, as he is with another Irishman, of course, Michael Conlon, gents, who I think is going to be a massive star over in the States, and I think he'll eventually usurp Carl Frampton as the most followed man in the north and maybe even the south of Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, rather. And, he's up against a tough guy in Jonfres Parejo on Saturday night. He's a very, very tough fighter, very experienced from Venezuela, 31 years old of age. Not a big knockout merchant like Ryan. These guys... at this weight, we talk about knockouts for heavyweights. At this weight, these guys generally go through 12-round wars. He's been knocked out once against Zanat Zakinov, of course, who we know all about. Because Ryan has a victory over him. So I think that augurs well for this contest that Zakinov managed to knock out Parejo. And I do think Ryan will come through it. What worries me with Ryan is that he seems to be in a war at this level every single time he fights. And you talked about longevity and not staying in the game too long, Eoin. And I think this is the key with Ryan. He's already stated that he wants to get in, buy some properties, buy a house for him and his girlfriend, or maybe his wife, but it's his partner, and have a family and just secure his future. I just hope he doesn't stay around for another 20-odd fights.
Gareth, great stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning.
Absolute pleasure, gents.
Gareth A. Davies there, talking to us about the weekend's fight. 2 big fights. Definitely, that war sounds like it could be good, so long as Ryan Burnett wins. And look, I think that Anthony Joshua could get caught in one of these fights. This isn't a gimme.
Like, let's not forget how close he was to defeat against Klitschko last year, and a lot of people do have the honest belief that Klitschko was well past it, and also have the belief that, I guess, Anthony Joshua is a more talented fighter than Vladimir Klitschko anyway, and he let himself down by getting himself that close to defeat last year, but he didn't. He didn't is the key. He came back from that, and he had, I guess, the mental strength to come back from that. Like, it was an absolutely amazing fight. Like, that's
the thing. Like, it is such a brilliant fight. So there's a weakness in all fighters because somebody's punching you with a big hammer.
Yeah, there is that. But there has been a few people in touch this morning. Kevin Kilban has been in touch. Yeah. He tweeted this image recently. Gilroy looks like an extra from 80s classic Wall Street in OTB AM this morning at Off the Ball. It's like a fight promoter there going down the Eddie Hearn route. There was also, if you're not going to become a fight promoter, well, you could always become a fighter. There was this yesterday as well from Brian Matthews. Wouldn't like to meet this fella down a dark alley. line emoji. Gilroy and John Kavanagh there, ready to take you down.
My stance not so great.
A little bit hunched, I think, but we can work on that.
Yeah, no, we can't. It's too late. The ship has sailed.
Just watch Joshua Parker, a few beers at the weekend, and say, after these cans, I'm going to, work on my technique, watch them. That's probably what I'm going to do, but anyway.
Enjoy that. OTB AM is brought to you this morning with Air, the home of Air Sport. Get amazing live sporting content free with Air Broadband. Let's briefly run you through the newspaper headlines again this morning if you missed them. I'm not going to lie to you, there isn't a whole heap going on. The best thing that the tabloids have going for them this morning is on the front of the Mirror, I believe it is, To Russia with Love, and it's a picture of Leo Varadkar's 007 with a Luger. It is a Luger, isn't it?
The little pistol.
Yeah.
I don't know my pistols from my shotguns, to be honest, so...
Some 007 nerd will be in touch.
I'm sure they will, but we're going to be off air by the time we get in touch, so don't waste your time.
We're on here tomorrow. We never sleep on.
Oh, that is true. Yeah.
We're always on. How could he not have known? Angers Lehmann keeps Australia job while players' leadership group of 3 are sent home in disgrace. I mean, I think it's fair to say that if you are going to go out and tamper with the ball, that perhaps you don't tell the coach.
Or maybe the coach was, involved.
I mean, but it is,
how can you not tell the coach if it was the coach's idea?
Well, I mean, I
don't think it was the coach's idea, to be honest. But.
PSG, I up Conte. From Paris with love, Antonio, please come and help us become the best in Europe. I mean, that's the job, isn't it? Not going back to Italy after they obviously get the Italy job now because they didn't qualify for the World Cup, but don't do that. You've already done that.
Yeah.
Go and take the 10 million a year, 15 million a year that PSG are going to give you. Live there for a while. See if you can fix the shitstorm that is Paris Saint-Germain. If you can, that's 100 million. But if you can't, who cares? It's only PSG. No one cares about them.
Well, some people do.
They don't really.
A cohort of about 4,000 people maybe who lived in Paris all their life. But
the club's only in existence since 1972 or 73. Ball tampering trio head back to Australia to await punishment. Slap on the wrist, a load of money, and an
Oprah interview maybe.
Infamy.
Whoever the Australian Oprah is.
Ray Parlour wants Arsene Wenger to be treated with a bit of respect whenever the time comes for him to leave Arsenal. But, that's going to be fine because when he decides to leave Arsenal, everybody's going to go, oh, what a great career you had. If only you'd called time 5 years ago, this would be a much happier time. Pogba sends a message to Jose by playing well for France in a meaningless friendly. They beat Russia.
He played well. That's all that matters here.
Leaving the chest for last. It's the definition of Sean Donlan that you're seeing there after Ireland beat Azerbaijan 1-0. Declan Rice is dreaming of taking all the King's men to Italy next year as he returned to Ireland under-21 duty with a victory. Should have read the rest of that before Noel King, all the King's men. I get it now. That would have been a good headline. All the King's men over the mass celebrations.
I think the leave the chest to last is also a good one. I'd say they probably tossed a coin in headquarters last night and they were like, will you go leave the chest to last or will you go all the King's men? I think leave the chest to last is wins. So correct decision there from the editorial team of The Sun.
Go on.
The back of the Irish Daily Mail is crying foul. England's night ruined by VAR penalty. Vardy versus VAR, I saw somewhere else. That's probably the best headline in regards to that. The Racing Post says footpad Philip for Aintree after owners reroute Star. So there's going to be no footpad at Ferryhouse this weekend. Footpad is now destined for the Aintree Grand National instead. Gordon Darcy's column in the Irish Times. The People's Game this month maybe, but winning is what keeps them coming back. We're going to discuss this story tomorrow and the day after and the day after and the day after, and I don't care what anybody thinks because it's the most important story of all time.
We're trapped in an infinite loop of debate about nothing.
Yes. Unacceptable to cancel games without talking to players, says GPA, who've put the foot down and are going to change the world one step at a time, one angry statement at a time. Finally, the Irish Examiner, the thinking 10, it's Ian Keithley there in the front. On the back, though, is Kieran Shannon.
Go on, yeah.
Kieran Shannon is basically making the point, or the headline reads, Mayo's approach is lacking 2020 vision. And he talks about the kind of way people limber up for the league, and you look at Galway saying the way that this was an important thing in its own sense to actually get to a league final. So he says that a team should have one of three goals when it comes to the league: either try to win, experiment, or ideally win and experiment. With Mayo, though, it appears to be neither one thing nor the other. He mentions Eoin O'Donoghue, who got a bit of game time, but then Stephen Cohen and Conor Loftus also got a bit of game time, but ultimately they haven't unearthed a whole pile of new talent. And if you're going to survive by the skin of your teeth in Division 1, well, at least you should have found a couple of extra new guys in the process, is Kieran Shannon's point. He also talks about holidays, which is an interesting one. He says it would seem in the wake of any All-Ireland final defeat, having a good team holiday is a more important part of the rehabilitation process than having a good league, obviously tongue-in-cheek there. Then he asked the question, would a 3-day lads only getaway to Barcelona in early December have been just as beneficial as a logistical monster that's an all-entourage affair that drags into the new year?
What did they do?
They went to, was it Thailand, or was it somewhere in the Far East anyway? I can't remember exactly where. But
so the suggestion is it would be better for them to do something smaller, quick, sharp.
Smaller, just a team. Don't bring everybody over with you, because I guess it is a logistical nightmare, but ultimately the players aren't really involved with that. I can't recall, was it January I think they went away as well on their team holiday? I think December, certainly if it was January, December probably makes a bit more sense before Christmas, but I do completely agree with him that, you know, if you're going to only just survive in Division 1, well, at least come out of it like Kerry have come out of it, or like Dublin have come out of it, or not Dublin, sorry, the Tipperary hurlers have come out of it with at least saying, well, we've got 35 to 40 players that we've used in the league. It doesn't matter that, you know, we're not in a...
And they're rolling with a bit more momentum. Although we thought they had loads of momentum last year, and then they hit a wall in the league final and never really recovered from it for the rest of the season. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what state the Tip hurlers are in, truthfully. It's hard to judge after last weekend. The Joint Committee on Transport, Tourism and Sport meets today. This is a committee which famously has been absolutely useless when it has come to holding anybody to account. They had the heads of the three main sports in last year and gave one of the most awful performances that we've ever seen from a committee in the years covering this. There's a few honourable exceptions on that committee who appear to be capable of doing some research and work, but the vast majority of the members of it have appeared to be making stuff up on the back of a brown paper envelope as they've been going in, jotting down some notes, talking about tickets and trying to grandstand for the cameras. It's been awful stuff so far, particularly when you compare it with what's been going on in the House of Commons and their Joint Select Committee, which has effectively uncovered the truth behind what was going on at Team Sky, or at least been able to suggest the truth about what's been going on at Team Sky, and have completely shot that organisation's reputation to tatters. Not on the agenda, obviously, of the Joint Committee on Transport, Tourism and Sport. Today, they're talking about the Capital Sports Programme. The ministers, plural, junior and senior, will both be before the committee. I think you'll also see Chief Executive of Sport Ireland there. So we're going to keep a close eye on the performance of the various people on that committee and also of the interviewees today, because it still seems as if the sports grant situation, funding, hasn't been properly finalised. One last story, an exclusive on the back of the Times. John O'Shea set to retire from the game in May, bringing the end to an illustrious career. He would have been involved in a lot of those Manchester United title victories that we saw on the Premier League trophy that we had in a little bit earlier on. We have that in because we're going to be speaking with Brian Robson. We're going to be recording that in about 20 minutes time. So we're going to leave you now, and we'll be bringing that interview tomorrow on the show. We'll also have a bunch of other good stuff for you as well. We'll see you then. Good luck.
OTB AM. In association with Air. Get Air Sport free with Air Broadband.